And now it's time to continue our learning journey. Our very first speaker is someone who has been helping organizations embrace agile, navigate change, and create lasting impact. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Venkatesh Rajamani, who will be presenting the new operating system for leaders in the age of AI. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so before I talk about even a single word about AI, I wanted to ask you a question. Please raise your hands if you have used any AI tool in the last week. You see almost everyone. Please keep your hands raised if it has changed the way how you led your teams. Please keep your hands raised if it has changed the way you lead your teams. Okay. So the talk is exactly going to be the between. Using AI and the way you lead your teams. We are going to see what is that. Before that, there is a small disclaimer. Whatever I am talking is going to be imaginary leadership character. So please don't take it into your hearts. Okay? Okay? So let's begin. This talk is going to be the mirror. AI is going to be the mirror. I'm going to hold that mirror. As I told you, it's going to be an imaginary leadership character. Okay? So I want to start this talk with, I'm going to skip my introduction because in the benefit of time, my name is Venkatesh Rajamani. Please don't call me Venki when you meet me in breaks. Please call me Venkat or Venkatesh. And I'm a visiting faculty in some of the business schools, and I'm also a CST and CEC, if that makes sense here. Okay? Thank you. So, 3 companies, 1 question. Are you ready? Okay? When I show a company logo, you are going to shout out the first word that is coming on your mind. Okay? First company. Shout out, what is the first word coming on your mind? Sorry? They filed a bankruptcy, they had technology, they had everything, but they chose film over the future. Agree? Next company? Phones. What else? Windows. No innovation. Connecting people, but they could not sustain the connection. Resistance to change. Okay, good. They held 40% of market share in their peak 2007. Unfortunately, 3% market share in 2013. I'm sure nobody in the company would have thought about this, that they would go down. Let's see the third company. Netflix is their competitor. Movies, internet. Have they embraced internet? What is the word coming on your mind? Late creator. VCD. I don't know how many had the privilege, but yes, had the largest market share in the United States, but unfortunately could not keep up with the competition with Netflix. Okay? Now I will change the question in this room. You answered me with respect to process, people, technology. What about leadership in these companies? What did they miss? Sorry? They were not futuristic? Adaptability? No continuous learning? No innovation? Again, you are going back to product process. I'm talking about leadership in these companies. Yeah, fixed mindset. Let's see. If you see all these companies, they all knew what was going to come. In fact, Kodak was the one who invented the first digital camera 25 years before the bankruptcy itself. Their first prototype way long back was digital. So in my opinion, they had the intelligence, the data was there, the knowledge was there, people were superb, but what was missing in my opinion is the leadership identity. When I say leadership identity, leaders in these companies could not imagine to be someone else. Agree, disagree? Leadership in those companies, they could not imagine being someone else. What is the reason, do you think? It's because all the leaders, including some of you, with a disclaimer, with due respects, we all have been operating from an operating system, 24/7, invisible, running inside you always. And those operating system is having 4 layers. I call it leadership operating system. What are those 4 layers? Your assumptions, your beliefs, your identity, and your trigger. So your belief is, what do you believe the leadership is all about? And your assumption is, what is the assumption that you carry every day when you go to work? Perhaps with your teams. And your trigger is, what is that is going to make me react instead respond? And the final thing, your identity itself is, what do I think that I am as a leader? So if I ask any leaders, some of the leaders of course I worked with, these 4 layers of operating systems have been running 24/7 unconsciously. Let's try to identify your operating system. I'm going to give a scenario and please sit with the question. You don't have to answer me. You're going to choose one of the options from the options that I'm going to give you. Okay? Imagine a situation. NPS in your team dropped by 18 points. Imagine. Okay? You have a meeting in 2 hours. What is your first internal reaction? Please don't answer me. Sit with the question. Choose one of the options. If anybody is going over edge and say, I won't use any of these options, great, but please choose one of these options. You don't have to tell me. Okay, see, I've chosen the options. Okay, so now, if you have chosen A, you are operating from a control operating system. Okay, your internal operating system is control operating system. If you have been operating from a B response, I call it adaptive operating system. We will see what is what. If you chose C, I call it performance operating system. And if you chose D, guess? Systemic operating system. I got to manage the system. I got to bring all the stuff together, put all the parts together, and then make a systemic view. Now, why are we operating from this operating system? Let's try to understand. If I bring AI into this flavor, everybody heard about AI. If I'm going to say, if AI is going to come in, fortunately or unfortunately, good news or a bad news, AI is going to replace this operating system. And how AI is going to reimagine this operating system? Look at this. The reaction that you had in the previous slide, I'm sure you chose your options. That is not just your mood. That is not just your behavior. That is your identity that you inherited from your first boss or first job or maybe from first failure. So what AI is going to do is, I call AI as a condition for leader. AI is not a technology. Of course, AI is a technology. GPT, I agree. But with respect to leadership, AI is not just a technology. AI is a condition. So how AI is going to replace your operating system. Take a look at this. If you have been operating from a control operating system, I'm going to say you have been a risk owner, meaning all the risk stops at me. I'm the one who is going to solve all the risks and pains. My team will never know this. I'm going to ask you to transform to resilience designer because AI is going to ask you to be a resilience designer. AI can do much more than what an individual as a leader you could do. And if you are going to operate from an adaptive OS system, that is operating system, you are going to be a sense maker because it is not enough just to get adaptive to the situation. You need to make many things that is happening in your company and make a sense out of it to be able to say, yes, this AI decision that I have been seeing is really worth. And if you have been operating from a performance operating system, expert authority, I have all the experience, veto power, I'm the one who is going to make all the act, I'm going to make the next step in this organization. You are going to becoming a learning accelerator because the pace that the AI is going to change the organization is not sustainable for a single person to hold and nurture. Are you with me? Sure? And the last one, what is the last operating system? System. So if you say I'm operating from a systemic operating system, I put systemic thinking at the center, AI is going to ask you to transform into a decision architect. This is one of my favorites. What do you mean by decision architect? You're going to create conditions where anyone can make a decision in the organization. You're going to create conditions where anybody can make a decision because the pace that AI is going to go, you will not be able to make all the decisions. So you are going to create conditions, which I call condition velocity in my book, where anybody can make a decision within their boundaries. Now, how do we get transformed into this? I easily said A to B, B to C. How do you get into this? So, getting into this stage requires little bit of retrospection. Now again, I'm going to show you 4 identities out of the behaviors. When you have 4 operating systems, you are going to embody 4 behaviors in you. And you are going to now quickly spot, where am I close to? Am I a knower? Or am I a decider? Am I a protector? Or am I a performer? Again, sit with the question. You don't have to answer me. These are your 4 identities that is actually operating inside within you. Nobody could see you unless you could retrospect yourself. So with the AI condition, I'm going to ask you to change from being a knower to a questioner. Meaning, you are going to be curious with your AI system. When AI is going to give you some answers, you are going to curious and understand the intention behind those answers, not just go and implement that. So when you are going to be the decider, already I told you that is my favorite. You will never be able to make all the decisions in an organization. So you are going to create conditions where people can decide, which means I'm going to say you are going to be an architect where decisions making can happen. And the third identity is protector. I told you protector means that you are going to stop all the failures at you. You will not let your teams fail. You are going to be a preparer because with AI, failure is going to be expected. A recent study from MIT says that organizations must invest infrastructure exclusively for agile leaders to be able to use AI. I'm not talking about the infrastructure where you run your servers. I'm talking about infrastructures that is going to sit with the leaders to augment their decisions. And the last one is, I'm going to be the performer. Raise your hands if you think leaders in your company visibly perform. Visibly they perform. No? Great. Then you are in a good company. Don't jump from that companies. Because leaders who are performing, they are going to be an invisible performer in organizations. They are not going to take any credits. They are going to be the invisible performers, but they are going to create conditions to do that. Now, how do you install this new operating system? Let's go back to the technical question. How do you install a new operating system when you no longer need an old operating system? Did I ask any bad question? Uninstall. Good. You got to uninstall. So I'm going to say you got to uninstall a few things to be able to install or upgrade your operating system. So what is that you got to uninstall? You are going to uninstall equating speed with readiness. 90% AI adoption fails because we all equate speed with readiness. When I am fast, I'm good. No, you are actually maybe hurrying. So please don't equate speed with readiness. Number two, you got to uninstall is rewarding people who bring answers. We like answers. The moment somebody brings answers, we reward them. But stay curious, try to retrospect their answers, try to help people find the intention behind their answers. So ask people to encourage questions. Please don't encourage people to just come with answers. And the third thing that you are going to uninstall is using experience as a veto. I have 22 years of experience. How many years of experience I have in AI? 0. We got to really reflect that. Which means we are good at finding AI tools, but we need to really good at finding AI tools with intention. And the last one is measuring leadership by visibility. I talked about this. Leadership is all about making visible changes, but that's not going to be a sustainable leadership change in the age of AI. Some of your changes is going to be invisible, it's going to be micro change. It is possible only when you're able to rewrite your identity. Are you guys with me? Now let's go back to the NPS question. How many have chosen control operating system? Be honest, God is watching you. How many of you are operating from adaptive operating system? System? Oh, great. Good. But this is the risk with AI. You got to really be curious with AI and ask, what am I missing? I'm saying that I'm operating with adaptive OS system. Is there any blind spot am I missing? That would help you reflect your real leadership identity. Okay, I'm just watching time because it's like rushing. So let's take an NPS example. You said we will upgrade the operating system. Right? First we need to uninstall the operating system, then we need to upgrade the operating system. Let's do an upgrade. We'll go back to the NPS case. Now we are going to go to the console and upgrade your leadership operating system. For that we got to access crash logs. We're going to access the logs. So the first log says, when I did the crash, NPS in 90 days, meeting in 2 hours, you got to upgrade the system, but system is really unstable. When you access your control operating system, who let this happen? I am going to ask you to change to systemic humility. Instead of going and asking people, what did we dismiss? What did we miss? Take a systemic humility. What am I missing as a leader? What were my blind spots lead to this situation? So when you go to the next OS, which is adaptive, when I access the crash logs, it says you got to go to the augmented judgment. I'm sure you would have heard this the word augment more than your names in the last year. Am I right? But what augment really means is that you are going to be a curious questioner, often, many times in a loop, to be able to come to this augmented judgment. That requires expanding the number of people in your teams to come together and find a solution that is sustainable. And let's next access the crash log of performance operating system. Any guess? If you're operating from a performance operating system, what do you think you need to be changing into with the help of AI? Why you guys are so sad? Was the breakfast not served? Difficult question? Okay, I'll reveal the answer. I will not make you upset. So when you say, I need a plan, even I fake it, I don't mind, because I need to give some performance metrics to my management. I'm going to ask you to change your operating system to meaning making. Am I doing something really makes sense? Or am I doing something just for the sake of operating from a performance OS? 5 minutes, referee showed it, so I need to rush. So the last operating system is, what is the system actually telling us? Okay? What is that my organization pattern is telling me? AI can spot patterns faster than you. So what is the system is actually telling me to? Decision architect, because you will not be able to read all the conditions in your organizations. You need to create conditions where all the people would be able to spot this. So you will be able to change your internal architecture kernel of your operating system with a right identity as a leader. So in a nutshell, your 30 days plan is going to be, first, when you go back home or when you go back to your house, sit offline, spend a couple of minutes, audit your own beliefs, test your assumptions. Am I making assumptions or am I just going with my bias? Ask the AI system that you have been using, what is the bias, what is my blind spot that I am missing? And then try to expose your identity. The good news is, I would not expose my identity to people, but I would be very much happy to expose my identity to ChatGPT. ChatGPT knows more than my wife. Agree? Agree? So that's a good way to augment your AI. So the final thing is, again I come back to this is because I like this, you need to design your new operating system. No one is going to design you. By going into loops, you got to design your own operating system where you can expose your identity as a leader that is going to give you fascinating results that your teams can experience, not just performer outside. Making sense? So finally, in the spirit of time, Kodak did not fail because of digital. I can say this. They failed because the leader in those companies could not imagine being someone else, someone different. And the question is whether you are going, the question is not whether you are going to use AI. Everybody will use AI. The question is how I'm going to use AI and what kind of leader I'm going to be with AI. That is the question we should be asking when you're augmenting with AI. Okay? So this is going to be an optional slide in the spirit of time. These are the 5 things we discussed in this talk. Sit with this 5 points when you go back or maybe driving down on your own when you go back to your home. And that's all I had to say for today. Thank you so much for the wonderful opportunity by the RSGH coaches and the entire Scrum Alliance team. I cannot answer any questions now in the spirit of time, but I'm going to be with you for the whole day. I'm happy to take any questions offline. And if you want to understand more about me, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Venkatesh Rajamani, and the book that I've recently written on Strategy in Motion that exactly talks about how do you create conditions, especially in the age of AI, that is going to augment your identity as a leader. At the same time, you can be a true performer, not just a performer visibly, performer invisibly also. Thank you so much. Hello. Any prompting example how to audit your own leadership style? So the best prompting example is prompt about prompts. So you go to AI and ask, I am my role, I have to decide something X, what is my bias and blind spot, this is what I am deciding. You have to give answers to AI first. I'm not asking you to just question it. With your prompts, you give answers to AI. So now AI knows your identity. And then you are also giving your role. And then by going through your answers, AI is going to reveal these are the blind spots probably you will be missing from your identity. That's a short example I can give you. But we had some prompts. It's just 30 minutes. So unfortunately, we couldn't accommodate. One more question can I take, or
Yeah,
any more question?
yeah.
Here. I could not see you. I'm getting old. Okay, thanks.
So I have a question here because usually leadership is not just one person, right? There will be 2 or 3 people at the top who are trying to take the decisions. Now, when you say that AI enables you to discover, now there are 3 people who are in the leadership, and all the 3 people are talking to ChatGPT or any AI in their own system. So how does that bias create there? Because that's one of the crucial situations that we come across. Like I also do a prompt, somebody else is also doing a prompt, we both meet.
Very good. So this is a great question. Thank you for asking that. This is what I talked about MIT's recent research. The article was out just 3 days before, which is called Infrastructure Decision Architecture. So what MIT is suggesting is, in a company, whether they are implementing AI or they are trying to start their AI implementation, first of all, they need to implement an architecture, that is an infrastructure, that is going to sense all the leadership personalities. And then the system internally is going to integrate all the thoughts, amalgamating all the thoughts from the leaders, and it is going to expose their identity as a leader in one single view. So imagine when you are going to build the AI system in a company, the CXOs or the leadership team will have to go and build this first so that the leaders in those companies will not go and silo thinking and they go and confuse different team members. That's what's happening with many AI implementation. With the data I can say. So you need to first install the human infrastructure that is going to expose the identity before you go and install the performance operating system like your systems, AI adoptions and all that. That's the short answer, but I can definitely help you with offline.
Hello.
Yeah? Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Wow, what a great session, Dr. Rajamani. How was the session, guys? Yeah, now I can see how was the session. Great session, sir. Thank you so much. I request Mr. Suresh to please felicitate Dr. Rajamani, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajamani, for this great session and lots of learning.